Welcome to Intimate Fame, conversations with the famous and infamous like you have never heard. Success, love, history alive, history undressed, private lives intimately revealed. What if you were there? Now you are invited. Meet extraordinary people as you never have before. One-person stories like no conversation you have ever been part of. Tonight, The Last Sitting, Marilyn Monroe. Episode 4, June 1962, Los Angeles, California. Marilyn Monroe arrived at the Hotel Bel-Air. She was alone, 5 hours late. She had agreed to a photo sitting for Vogue magazine with the famous photographer Bert Stern. Marilyn never granted photo sittings, but even she knew her career needed the publicity. 2,571 photographs were taken. The photographs would be the final glimpse into the life of the Hollywood icon. 6 weeks after the photo sitting, Marilyn Monroe, the original American goddess, would be dead.
Thank God we're done with fashion. And while naked under a 15 grand Dior chinchilla will no doubt make Vogue happy, this perfect Hermes robe is getting closer to what we both know they all want. Creating illusions. Boy, they take a lot of fucking work. It's remarkable any movie gets made. Musical, comedy, drama, it doesn't matter. It is a battlefield, a war zone, usually from beginning to end. Delays, weather, schedules, budgets, relationships, temperaments. It's certainly true of all the movies I worked on. And the movies where the movie was about me, where I wasn't just hanging off the arm of George Sanders for 5 minutes or making a flyby impression with the critics. When the movie was a Marilyn Monroe movie, and trust me, I learned that there were many of those movies where I never got top billing, let alone top dollar. And yet, everyone working on those movies knew. They damn well all knew. From the Grips to the Mr. Big Shots. It was a Marilyn Monroe movie, and that's what sold seats. That's what put food on family tables. That's a lot to live with at anything you do. The truth is, once I knew who Marilyn Monroe was, I knew I was the cause of a lot of that war zone. People had to put up with my lateness, with my demands for retakes. They also knew it was because I wanted so much out of my work. Everyone's work. I knew what the hell was on the line. Never cared if it was 5 minutes on screen or the entire movie. I would never be mediocre. Never walk through it. Say what you will of my career. Talk to anybody, especially those who have nothing nice to say about me. Talk to anyone, cast or crew. I was never a bitch on set. I left that to a few women far better suited. Last night I was awake all night again. Sometimes I wonder what nighttime is for. It almost doesn't exist for me. It seems like one long, long, horrible day. Nighttime is for Eunice, not for dreams. Do you dream, Bert? Cat got your tongue, Bert. This could be a long, long night. Just one for each of us. There you go. You have beautiful eyes. I can see how you seduce them. Elizabeth Taylor on the set of Cleopatra, Richard close by. Very exciting. If rumors are to be believed. We have nothing to wash it down. Champagne. Another toast, Bert. Give a girl the right shoes, and she can conquer the world. Okay, Bert. While we wait for that to kick in, and you reset all of your toys, I'm going to make myself comfortable. You know, there's an 18th century fainting couch back there that you could have left out for me. Do I need to drag that in here as well? No worries. Don't bother yourself. Play with your toys. This simple chair will do fine. I couldn't be Arthur's muse. When what you know is you're thought of as one of the most desired women in the world, being a muse for your husband should come naturally, don't you think? That's not easy to admit. Somebody Arthur knew told him that a short story he'd written for a magazine would make a good movie. I'm pretty sure he told Arthur a great movie. Worse yet, he may have told Arthur it was a serious movie. Let's keep it at good. This nightmare of movie making was never going to be anything close to good, let alone great. The Misfits. The story is, they were these three nobody men who don't have anywhere to be or anything to do. They end up in the middle of nowhere, Nevada, where they grab wild horses so they can be killed for dog food. Into this mix is thrown a nobody woman. She's pretty much a lost wanderer as well. And at this point, you gotta be asking yourself, how the hell do all these nobody people with nowhere to be and nothing to do all end up in the most nowhere nobody spot in America? But they do. The big difference with her, she doesn't really see the wild horses as dog food, but as, well, wild horses. Changing cameras again, Bert. Camera number 3. That's your favorite, isn't it? You use it for the close-ups. You like the close-ups. Here I am coming up with wonderful poses when you're shooting my mug. See? I figured that out. I don't have to work so hard with camera number 3. Your secret is out. This friend of Arthur's, he put a bug in Arthur's ear that this role for me would announce to the world, Marilyn Monroe is a serious actress. Instead, Arthur wanted to rewrite Blue Angel and announce to the world, not that I was a serious actress, but that I was meant to be the next Marlene Dietrich. It was something Arthur and I could do together. Arthur needed a reason to write. I needed a reason to believe in the marriage. Clark Gable said he would star in it. Who the hell is going to turn that down, right? Arthur writing The Misfits was a terrible time. He would start, then throw everything out and start over. It wasn't any good, nothing like his plays. I wanted this to be for him and not me. I encouraged him to keep writing, keep at it. I did my best to stay out of the limelight. The Misfits would be hell. I was gonna say nightmare. This was far worse. This, there was no waking up from. No. This was hell. Penance paid for all my dreams of fame. What are you doing? A ladder? What's with the ladder, Bert? I'm not climbing any ladder. Here, I can help with that. I'm not all fragile and weak, you know. Where? Here, end of the bed? You and your angles. Is that what this is? Your plan is to shoot me from above the bed, as if you were hovering over me or something? Okay, interesting. When we get back to shooting, do I just lay there? Do I know you're hovering above me? Why don't you direct a movie? What is the premise here, Bert? That's what directors call it, premise. When what they really want to say is, just do it my way, sweetie. What is the premise for you, Bert? I don't think it's Vogue. I don't think your opinion of them is much better than mine. Maybe your premise is money. I doubt it. I bet you're making more in this sitting than I made in my first 10 movies combined. So, I'm gonna go out on a limb and guess your premise is me. You're very quiet, Bert. You want something from me. Not the obvious. I think your premise is you want something no one has ever gotten from me. something far more elusive, something more desired. You want to go see behind the veil of Marilyn Monroe that no one sees. That one photograph, the Garbo shot. That's it, isn't it? Well, now we know the premise. The first time I met Arthur, I didn't know him. It was before Joe, before Marilyn Monroe. It was a sort of a prank. He came to Hollywood with Mr. Kazan, and they had a movie script to sell. All about teamsters and gangsters dying, but still having their dignity. As a fun distraction, Mr. Kazan wanted me to pretend I was his secretary when he and Arthur met the Mr. Big Shots. The idea made me laugh, so I said yes. Turns out I wasn't much of a distraction. The studio demanded Arthur meet with labor heads who thought the script anti-American. They wanted Arthur to make the communists the villains. They said the script was treasonous. They said that there wasn't one movie projectionist in the country that would show the movie. Arthur had to make changes or be branded as a commie lover and never work in Hollywood again. Arthur wouldn't do it. He took his script and walked away. That stuck with me, not taking the money, not doing what they wanted. I'd never really seen that before in Hollywood. Arthur just wanted his dignity. Yeah, it stuck with me. The Misfits. That was the perfect title. By this time in my career, everyone expected me to be late. Even with the daily noon call. I needed pills when Arthur gave me new pages to learn when I went to bed, and pills first thing in the morning for the new pages to learn. He was desperate for words. It was nothing short of complete horror for me. Okay, Bert, champagne time. My most important scene, perhaps the movie's most important scene. Arthur imagined my response to the capture of the horses for slaughter. That I should not have dialogue, but instead respond by throwing a fit. Throwing a fucking fit? I guess they thought I was too dumb to explain anything. So, I have a fit. A screaming, crazy fit. Arthur did this to me. He was supposed to be writing this for me. He says it's his movie. I don't think he even wanted me to be in it. It was all over between us. We had to stay with each other because it would be bad for the film if we split up. The complete and utter crash and burn of our marriage, now that would have been one hell of a better story than Misfits. Arthur was always complaining to Mr. Houston about me, and that's why he treated me like an idiot with his dear this and dear that. There's a wonderful scene where I'm woken up early in the morning by Clark Gable. I planned it so my bedsheet would drop just far enough to uncover one naked breast.
Cut! Houston called with a yawn. I've seen 'em before.
He invited me to gamble one evening. The last thing I wanted to do. I played along. I shook the dice and asked him, "What should I ask for, John?"
Don't think, honey. Just throw. That's the story of your life. Don't think. Do it.
One night, he lost $16,000 at the table. He already owed more than $50,000. It was written in his contract that the production would cover his gambling, but nothing like this. The casino was calling in the debt. Next morning, the entire company, except me, was called to a meeting. It was announced that I had suffered a breakdown, and the film was suspended for a week. I had problems, sure. I was going to be blamed for everything. I was the scapegoat. Everyone knew this was bullshit. The producers needed time to regroup, figure out how to save the damn movie. The real misfits were all behind the camera. Arthur stormed out. "I'm gonna destroy that one, just so you know." There was a scene. Clark Gable asks my character, "What makes you so sad?" "I think you're the saddest girl I ever met." My reply is, "No one ever said that to me before." Those are the very words Arthur said to me not long before we married. I was a lot sadder after we married. Mr. Gable had a massive heart attack. It happened the day after we finished shooting. 5 days later, he had a second heart attack and died. 59 years old. His 5th wife, pregnant with his first child. He had been the perfect friend, the perfect father. So peacefully kind and unselfish in his manner toward me.
So take your shot, Bert. That's what we're here for.
The gossip columns came after me.
I killed Clark Gable.
It was my irresponsible and irrational behavior on the Misfits that was responsible for his demise. No mention of the ruthless schedule the director had put him through. No mention of Mr. Gable's inclination of smoking 3 packs of cigarettes daily for 30 years. Come on, Bert. Let's shoot something that one day might mean something. Clark Gable danced with me. He once told me while we danced, "I've always admired you and wanted to be in a picture with you." Humphrey Bogart poured me drinks. Gary Cooper liked to schmooze sharp gossip in my ear. I smiled and danced and chatted, but it was all an illusion. Truth is, I never felt I belonged. I've come up from way down. I was 15. There had been so many schools, so many homes. I was at Grace's home, sitting on the porch out front, too restless for inside, watching a few neighbors come and go. Grace came out and sat with me. I knew something was wrong. She never came out and sat with me. Not like that. More like church or a funeral. Doc was being transferred to West Virginia. It was a good promotion at a steady job. Grace was a friend of my mother's. She's the one who told me I was the next Jean Harlow. It was Grace who had to find one of those foster homes or the orphanage because there was too much going on for my mother, in her head and all. But Grace would come back for me, and Grace always did come back. This time, out on the porch, it felt different. I knew what she was saying to me was, this time, she would not be coming back for me. Grace would go with him, but not me. They could not afford to keep me. Just said it like it was no big deal. Just something that happened. She did say she was working on something wonderful for me. I had been let go of so many times before, sent to a stranger's home, another family paid money to take me in. This time, with Grace, I knew it was different. I married Jimmy so I wouldn't have to go back to the orphanage. The suggestion didn't come from Jimmy. Jimmy's mother, Ethel, brought it up. Since I couldn't go with Grace and Doc, and I had no place to go back to, it meant I would need to go back to the orphanage until I was 18, 2 years away. We knew each other from school. Jimmy was older. I only got attention from the older boys because I developed sooner. Jimmy was the guy you wanted to know. Not because his family had money or he was the best looking. You just knew that he knew he was cool. He sort of thought of me as his girl, but not his girlfriend. Dances, parties. He would flirt with other girls in a fun way. It didn't bother me. Not in the way you might think. I sort of thought of Jimmy the same way. He was my guy, but not my boyfriend. I didn't flirt so much. I didn't know how to talk, make an impression. Jimmy was so good at the schmooze. I felt like I ruined everything. I didn't have any friends. I had teachers and people I could look up to, but nobody I could look over at. You know that feeling, Bert? I always felt I was a nobody, and the only way for me to be somebody was to be, well, somebody else. Which is probably why I wanted to act. Illusions. So many, many illusions. Grace got Ethel to ask if Jimmy would want to marry me. I would be 16 in June, legal to marry in California. I was too young for him. Oh, he liked me. We had fun together. He wasn't thinking about marriage to anyone. He didn't like the idea, but he understood it. He was going off to war soon. I would have a home with his mother. I went along with the idea. When I was young, I constantly told people, I'm never going to marry. I'm going to be a school teacher and have lots of dogs. Dogs never bite me, just humans. Eunice doesn't bite. She looks like she wants to. Someday she might. Eunice is a nurse. Maybe. Not really a nurse. Oh, I don't really know. It's just another illusion. 19 days after I turned 16, I was married. Norma Jean Mortensen Baker Doherty. I didn't know the guests. Friends of Grace and Doc and Jimmy's mother. Matron of honor was a girl I sorta knew in high school, one of Jimmy's flirts. Jimmy's older brother was best man. I did like the winding staircase in the front hall, just like in the movies. I was shaking. I could hardly stand. The entire night spun faster than any musical number I've ever been in. I never let go of Jimmy's arm. I looked at him as though I was afraid he might disappear while I was out of the room. Jimmy liked to dance. Not the best dancer, but his philosophy about a boy and a girl dancing together caught my attention. Made me think he was wiser than he liked to let on. One night, walking home, he told me what he called Jimmy's philosophy of dancing. He said, a boy can tell more about a girl and a girl more about a boy dancing for 3.5 minutes to a song than all the dates, dinners, and conversations combined. The conversations your bodies have, the give and take of a couple on a dance floor, even if you don't dance particularly well, how you move together, overcome the slip-ups. Jimmy said, it says so much about what comes up when working out a relationship. Overcome the slip-ups. How you both sense what the other is about to do and adjust. The give and take. It tells you everything you need to know about a future with a person. Arthur could have learned from Jimmy. Well, Jimmy's philosophy of dancing got my attention. When we got married, it was the first time in my life I had a social life with other married couples who loved each other. I had not seen much of people in love, except at the movies. I put together a dance night in the courtyard, asked everyone to bring their favorite records. First time I ever saw Jimmy where he didn't know what to say or do. The music started and I didn't ask him to be my partner. I didn't need a partner. I just danced by myself, in and out with all the men. I made up numbers I would dance if I was in a big movie musical. All the men loved it. Jimmy, not so much. It was the first time I realized I couldn't help it that men's wives looked at me and got so jealous they wanted to throw rocks. I realized who I was, that look I had. It wasn't a deficit. It was their problem, not mine. My marriage didn't make me sad. It didn't make me happy either. Jimmy and I hardly spoke to each other, and this wasn't because we were angry. We had nothing to say. I was dying of boredom. I had learned to dance on my own. Jimmy never said it straight out because of the war, but he said enough that I knew once the war was over, he wanted a family. Women in my family had always made such a mess of mothering. And now Eunice. Mothering. Eunice. If Eunice knew, she wouldn't want me here. Such a row when I left. Where I was going, keeping secrets. I'm terrified to go home. I didn't want her. I didn't need her. They insisted. I messed up, but so are they. Eunice the worst of all. Why would they do that? Why? To me. You're a big, strong man. Eunice would scare the hell out of even you. You can be protected, and you can be possessed. They are not in any way the same thing.
This is Scott Edward Smith, the creator of Intimate Fame. Thank you for listening, and join us next time. The Last Sitting, Marilyn Monroe. Written by Scott Edward Smith. Performed by Rachel Ogilvy. Sound design and original music by Chesney Hawkes. Associate producer Melissa Jobe. Produced by Howard Gluss.